Welcome, listeners, to the Member Advantage, the brand new podcast from the Capital Region Builders and Remodelers Association.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Member Advantage. This is Kristen.
And Christine.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to be covering a Lobby Day recap. Just a quick look at our Lobby Day from March 18th.
Yeah, how the day went, who we met with, what we talked about.
Reactions.
The reactions. It was a good day.
It was a great day.
It was.
I'm proud of our
I am so
crew.
Incredibly proud. Yes, we had so many members come. We had some board members and we had members from all of our different member types, builder, remodeler, and associates. And we really showed up in force. So thank you for that.
Yes, it was impressive. And, there were builders there, or builder associations from across the state.
Yeah.
And we encountered one from Western New York early in the morning when we were meeting up, and they had 3 people, and they looked over, and their executive officer was like, "Are these all your people?" And I was like, "Yeah, they are.
Yeah, these are our peeps."
So we had like 25-ish people, kind of fluctuated a little throughout the day. But such a good showing.
And a really great mix of people with different backgrounds, and everybody kind of brought something to the table, which was really great. So we do want to start out by just doing a quick shout out to the different companies that came and supported our Lobby Day. So I'd like to thank Apollo Heating, Barbera Homes and Development, Bellevue Builder Supply, Bennett Contracting, Best Fire,
Best Tile, C&J Custom Builders, Eric Kohler Homes, Michaels Group Homes, Pepino Builders, Redbud Development, Teakwood Builders, and TPL Flooring.
Thank you all so much for taking your time from your
it's a full day.
It is. But it's important. And, I think once you guys listen to how the day went, the conversations we had, I think it will be really informative as to why this is just so important.
Right. And the people that came, there were a lot of new faces that came. Part of that maybe because of the issues and how important these issues really are. But when you're able to pack a room, it really does make a difference when the legislator walks in and they're like, Oh,
you're all here.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that was pretty priceless.
Yeah. And one who was like, the staff person when we got there was like, if you had told me you were going to have this many, we would have reserved a conference room. Yeah. I'm like, sorry.
Well, we didn't know. NYSBA had put out a packet with kind of 5 or so topics that were their priorities for the entire state.
Yes, with like a 3 to 4 items under each of those.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of information.
Because there's so much going on and it's all very important.
But we chose to kind of hone in and focus on 3 topics that we felt were the most important to our area and the state. So we're going to kind of run through each of those 3 topics, and we'll kind of give you our spiel if you weren't at Lobby Day to see kind of how we spun it towards these legislators, and then we'll let you know what kind of how each meeting went with the different assembly people or senators, and
give you the feedback that we got from them, because we really had interesting conversations.
We did.
Both sides of the aisle, which you don't always know how it's going to go, but having the back and forth.
Yeah.
It gave us ideas on how to pursue some of these things going forward. So it really was worthwhile, and just it makes such a difference being face to face with them.
It really does. And I know in years past there's certainly some meetings where it's just kind of like, okay, and next. Okay, and next, like there's not that, like you said, that back and forth collaboration, sharing of ideas, and even just the asking of questions.
Yes.
Like so many of them were like, can you clarify XYZ?
Yep.
And we're like, we're happy to. That's the whole reason that we're here.
Yes.
So it was really good.
It was nice to be able to inform them, educate them, because when it's presented to them, in a bill, in some ways, they're hearing about it from the person who wants it, and they're not necessarily going to tell you the downfalls of it. Like, you have to do that research yourself. So it's good for us to be able to go there. Our message is always that when it comes to residential construction, we're the experts. So we just want to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah. So the first topic that we brought up was the grandfathering in of the All Electric Act. So we know electrification, when did that? Was that a year, 2 years ago?
2 years?
2 years ago.
Yeah, so this is the second year where we've been pursuing grandfathering.
Pursuing this, right. And we had mentioned in one of our previous episodes that we were able to get Assemblywoman Carrie Warner to put a bill in to have existing projects grandfathered in for the all electrification. So there's currently a bill in the Senate and there's a bill in the Assembly. So what we were asking is we were trying to get more support and having co-sponsors for this bill.
Yep.
So kind of some of our points were that the current legislation that's out there doesn't have any clarification about projects that have already commenced with utility infrastructure or have already received approval by the local planning board before this deadline takes in effect, which is December 31st of this year.
Yep. And that just leads to so much uncertainty because we know that, you know, the grid can't really handle it. One of the senators we met with said, yeah, it's not going to be able to happen. We're like, okay, but when is anybody going to admit that?
Right.
So that they can change what date it's going to take effect? Because if you know today, March whatever, that it's not going to work, are you going to make us wait until December 31st to tell us and then say, haha, just kidding?
Right. I feel like we had actually multiple of the legislators that we talked to that we were trying to get their support. They're like, well, it can't happen anyways. We're like, but if it does, though, we'd like to be prepared here with some information.
And it's holding up projects right now. So what we're asking is if a project is already started with natural gas, let it be completed with natural gas. And they seem to understand absolutely the common sense of that, which was nice to hear. And again, it was both sides of the aisle saying that they just don't see how this, is
going to happen in the time frame that they've put forth. Yeah. So obviously Carrie Warner, she was one of the first meetings we had. She was obviously in support of this and she put the bill in.
Yes.
We had asked her what her feelings were like. Was there any thoughts from her colleagues?
Right. Is she hearing objections that we should be aware of?
And she didn't really say that, but she said she was gonna kind of poke around and see what people were thinking.
Yes.
So we'll definitely follow up with her. Because we owe her some information on something else that we'll get to.
And she did want to know, since she was our first meeting, she asked us to let her know how our other meetings went, because then she's willing to follow up with those legislators if they expressed interest.
Yeah, she said
she'll go to them directly.
Yeah.
Our second priority in our meetings was talking about our concerns with the current wetlands regulations that took effect on January 1st, 2025.
We went in and asked for their help to prevent the bottlenecks that we already see happening. And I think what really turned into was educating them about the unintended consequences of the regulations.
I would say every single person we met with really did not have a full grasp on what this meant.
Yes. So
some of them gaped mouths, shocked what this truly
Jaws
meant.
Dropped.
Yeah.
We always talk about having data being really helpful. In this instance, what was really helpful was having a map that showed. So thank you, Frank Barbera, Homes. He had a map of a project that he's been developing in Bethlehem. The town of Bethlehem loved it. It was allowing a lot of green space, and it was making use of public roads and public sewer. So they were seeing this as a great project. And so he had a map of what it looked like when it had the Army Corps of Engineers stamp of approval. And it would have 109 homes. And then on the next page, it had the map after the regulations took effect.
It basically destroyed the entire development. It would have to be completely redesigned, which they haven't done yet because they don't know what's happening.
Right.
But they're estimating that it will get 30 to 40 homes max now.
And they have to go back to the redesign because the 100-foot buffer just makes it impossible, and it makes roads impossible to be passed. So you're preserving the same wetlands, the same space, but you're now expanded it so exponentially that it's impossible We talked to them about grandfathering and, letting all pending applications before the DEC and local municipalities as of December 31st, 2024, so right before it took effect, to continue under the previous rules.
The other thing that we talked about was this term of urban.
Yes.
So we had mentioned in our previous episode that areas like Clifton Park and Delmar are... Ballston, yeah, the town of Ballston, they're urban areas now. And again, some of the legislators, most of them were like, really? That doesn't make quite sense.
Right.
So we did, we had been asked by a few of them what defines an area that makes it an urban area. So we looked that up. Area must have a population of at least 5,000 residents or at least 2,000 housing units. And I want to say that when we were there, someone looked it up and which this is obviously an extreme different area, but Japan's definition of urban is like 20,000.
Right, I want to say it was 30,000.
Right, it's like an insane amount. But let's find a happy medium, maybe.
Yes.
So a lot of them, the legislators were like, that just doesn't make any sense. And then talking about like you said, the unintended consequences. Now you're going to have to push these houses out into rural areas.
Right,
you're getting urban sprawl. Yeah. Don't have
the infrastructure
in place, and they're like, "Wow, this is bad. This is really bad."
They were like, "This is not what we thought we were asking them for."
No.
And so they were like, "And this is already in effect." And we're like, "Yes." So hopefully, with the support of the legislators we talked to, Assemblywoman Warner said that, she would be willing to send a letter to the DEC commissioner, that, getting other legislators to sign on with her, that will make a difference.
So then the last topic that we wanted to focus on was the opposition to fire sprinkler mandates. So there's also been a little confusion with this. The Code Council put out a draft of what they're proposing, and it kind of seems like they're not including single-family homes. Right. However, it is not
off the table.
So we were talking about townhomes, but also single-family homes. I think a lot of these legislators didn't understand the cost because there's been a little misinformation. Sprinklers add $20,000 to $30,000 onto the cost of the home.
Right.
And right now, home builders already have to, by law, offer a sprinkler system.
Yes. They have to give the information, give the pricing, and then it becomes consumer choice, which it should be.
It should be.
If they want it or not. And anecdotally, builders will say they don't have any clients who choose.
Right. I think one builder said they knew of one client, and it wasn't even their builder or their
it wasn't their customer. Yeah. And one of the builders was like, "No, people would rather spend that on the countertop in the kitchen. We're going to start spending that much money."
Yeah.
So again, this was a case of misinformation. We luckily were armed with a research study done by Astor Hill Research Company that NYSBA, the New York State Builders Association, commissioned with the assistance of the NYSBA Research and Education Foundation and the National Association of Home Builders to do a study about the fire sprinklers and the impact that it has. And in that study, it showed that, it's been explained to people that the costs are like $2.50 to like $4.50, something in that range, per square foot. And the study then goes on to say, but in New York State, the average cost is $8.42 to $10.47 per square foot. So, they're being told, it's a nominal cost. Right. It's no big deal. Add them. Well, that's not the case.
I wouldn't call that no big deal.
No. And even more interesting from that study, and a good stat that we were able to share, was that no residential fire fatalities occurred between 2019 and 2023 in New York built homes after 2000. So the problem isn't in new construction.
Right.
So that became our message, that you don't need to put another regulation on new construction that makes the home more expensive when the problem isn't with new construction. They already follow stricter codes. The electrical,
the materials they're using.
Yes.
And again, they're already giving the consumer the right. Or the option, I should say, to put a fire sprinkler system in if they'd like.
Right. And they don't want it. The average age of a home where there were fire fatalities was 1932.
Yeah. So I was surprised by that number. I knew it would be old, but 1932?
Yeah.
That's almost 100 years old.
So we're talking about, like, the problem isn't with these homes, and the study shows it's about the lack of smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors that are the culprit in these fires, unfortunately. So it really just isn't another problem to be pushed on new construction because it's easy. So that felt like it was another,
Yeah, and I feel like that that point was pretty well received. I know that when we met with Senator Jake Ashby, he said he'd be willing to co-sponsor a bill for the DEC and for the sprinklers.
So we had great meetings. I don't know that we said who we
didn't.
Met with.
So our first meeting was with Assemblywoman Carrie Warner, and she gave us a good 30 to 40 minutes.
Yes.
Like, we were running late.
Yes.
But it was a really great meeting, good conversations.
Yep. And then we went to see Senator Jake Ashby, who understands where we're coming from.
He does.
So he's another one who he gets the common sense of it all.
Right. So that was a great meeting. And we met with both Carrie and Senator Ashby. We met with them directly. Our third meeting was with Senator Tedisco. We did meet with his staff person. So that was a good meeting. I think he got pulled to the floor maybe, or
he got pulled into a committee meeting.
Committee meeting, that's what it was.
Which is always, a possibility
risk,
at this
right?
time of year.
Right.
That is why we try to have our meetings in the morning, because we're more likely to get them.
And then after that, we went and met with Assemblywoman Mary Beth Walsh. Again, we said it was,
And that was when we learned from our previous experience and did ask her staff for a conference room. And we actually went to the meeting early because we're like, we have a lot of people, and so she actually was able to get a conference room so that we were able to.
And we filled that entire gigantic table up, plus some extra seats.
Yes.
And she walked in, she's like, well, hello, everyone.
Such a great back and forth discussion with her. And then we went to meet with Senator Fahey. We started off meeting with her chief of staff, who was fantastic, and
he's very nice. We've met with him before, when she wasn't available.
Yep. And he said, but she really wants to come in and at least say hello. And so she came in, and she actually sat down at the table with us, and
she was there for a good 20 or so minutes too.
And her staff was at the door, tapping their watch, and come on, we gotta go.
She's like, another minute.
And she kept saying okay, hold on. The people that we didn't get to meet with, either they didn't have availability in their schedule or we just couldn't get it to line up, we made a point of dropping by their offices and leaving materials, talking to their staff. And we're going to, follow up with them after and try to visit them.
Right, even if it's separately. A smaller group. But I definitely think these are issues worth fighting for, so we need to definitely try and get as much support as we can. A few of us, Kristen, myself, and Karen, the vice president, we went to the NISBA reception later in the day, got to chat with some of the other local home builder associations throughout New York State. And I will say that was the general just the feeling that everybody had. Everybody was like, the consensus, that's the word. Everybody said they had really great conversations, good back and forth, great feedback. So that was also really good to hear that, they're obviously meeting with their local legislators. So that was,
they thought they were receptive, and a lot of people saying, both sides of the aisle. So that's encouraging too.
It is.
And then, when these issues come up for discussion again on the floor, we now have people that have a better understanding, and we gave the same messaging to people. So there's consistency there.
Right. Overall, great day. Again, thank you so much to everyone who took the time out of their day, got their steps in, went in that very hot building.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we were talking about the heating bill for the legislative office building, because every room,
lava, pure lava. But it was totally worth it. So hopefully, these few little episodes on Lobby Day give you a little more insight and maybe inspire you to come next year.
Yes.
I did already have somebody reach out. I won't say her name, but she said she's coming next year.
Okay.
So
All right.
I will follow
Mark
up on that.
Down. Put a note in your calendar to
Yes.
follow up with her.
So-and-so said next year.
Yes, we're going to hold you to it.
Yes.
But it will be next spring. It kind of varies based on what the issues are, getting in either before budget or after budget. But we will keep everybody posted. And, if you're interested in sitting in on some of these meetings that we're going to have in addition, shoot me an email.
Yeah,
I'll
let
keep
us
you
know.
posted on the schedule. We would love to, have someone. And if you just want to kind of get a taste for what it feels like, that's kind of like the best baby step for it.
It is, yes.
Thanks, everybody. We hope that this inspires you to get more involved. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
The Member Advantage podcast is a production of the Capital Region Builders and Remodelers Association, hosted by 2025 President Christine Rabel and CRBRA Executive Officer Kristen Eggleston. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts. While we do our best to provide accurate and up-to-date information, any mistakes are entirely our own. This podcast is for informational purposes for the benefit of our members. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.